You spend hours reading a thick history book, and a week later, a vague sense remains, but the actual facts have completely evaporated. The problem is the method itself. Trying to learn history chronologically requires your brain to hold on to a massive sequence of isolated data points. It creates a cognitive load that your memory simply cannot sustain. Treating history as a timeline of random events, a war, a pyramid, a rocket launch, gives your memory no structure. Instead of memorizing trivia, we can build a rigid architecture, 4 structural pillars holding up everything else. Historian Yuval Noah Harari maps this out in his book Sapiens. He argues our species' entire trajectory hinges on exactly 4 major shifts. These 4 shifts act as structural anchors. Once they are in place, the specific details of human history begin to organize themselves into a system rather than a series of dates. Instead of renting facts for a week, this approach focuses on the underlying logic of human development. It is a trade. A few minutes spent mapping the system now makes the complex history that follows much easier to navigate. The first node is the cognitive revolution. About 70,000 years ago, Homo sapiens were an animal minding their own business in East Africa. A biological mutation in the brain gave our species a unique ability. We gained the capacity to communicate about fictions, myths, and things that do not exist in the physical world. We see the proof in objects like this 30,000-year-old Statel Lion Man statue. Someone spent time carving a creature that existed entirely in their imagination. That shared belief in fictions, whether it's tribal spirits, gods, nations, or eventually money, allowed millions of complete strangers to cooperate effectively for the first time. That massive cooperation is how sapiens spread out and dominated the planet, leaving their mark across the globe. We bypassed the slow traffic jams of genetic evolution and moved directly into the fast lane of cultural evolution. We could alter our behavior rapidly just by changing the stories we told. We traded a purely biological existence for a reality governed almost entirely by imagined artificial constructs. The second node arrives roughly 12,000 years ago, the agricultural revolution. Humans stopped relying on what they could hunt and gather and transitioned their effort to domesticating a tiny handful of plant and animal species, like wheat and sheep. This map illustrates the specific zones where agriculture began. Notice the scattered orange areas. People independently domesticated local plants in isolated pockets across the globe, completely unaware of each other. Domestication led to massive food surpluses, which in turn triggered exponential population growth. Harari calls this the luxury trap. Early humans sought an easier life and a stable food supply, but they inadvertently made their daily lives much harder. The average farmer worked longer hours, suffered a far less varied diet, and faced severe new diseases compared to their nomadic forager ancestors. We traded the varied, stimulating life of the hunter-gatherer for a rigid, labor-intensive system, one that produced permanent settlements, strict hierarchies, and pampered elites. Surging populations forced the third phase, the unification of humankind. To manage millions of people crammed together in cities and kingdoms, humans had to invent universal orders, specifically monetary systems, empires, and universal religions. The imperial order physicalized this mass cooperation. Massive infrastructure and unified political control held huge, disparate territories together under one system. The religious order provided a shared truth. It allowed complete strangers to trust each other because they adhered to the exact same universal laws. Together, these orders took thousands of isolated, independent human worlds and steadily blended them into a single, interconnected global network. We achieved global stability, standardized trade, and shared legal systems. But the cost was severe. We erased thousands of unique, independent human cultures to make the network function. That brings us to the final node, just 500 years ago, the scientific revolution. This shift required a philosophical baseline. Humankind collectively admitted its own ignorance. We realized we did not have all the answers, and chose to invest heavily in research and observation. The result was massive technological and industrial power. We effectively decoupled humanity from our surrounding biological ecosystem, molding the planet to fit our immediate needs. We gained the ability to manipulate matter at its most fundamental level. and we placed that immense power directly into the hands of individual humans. We are no longer just another animal shaped by natural selection. We are now capable of re-engineering biology itself. But this same power to design life also gives us the capacity to end our own. These four nodes act as a continuous, unbreakable chain of cause and effect. If you approach the rest of the videos in this series trying to memorize specific dates, the names of kings, or the locations of battles, you will miss the entire point. The traditional method trades your time for trivia you can deploy at a dinner party, while leaving you completely blind to the actual mechanics of human behavior. So here is your viewing strategy. Look for the systems. Ignore the trivia. Track the cause and effect. By using this framework, you will clearly see the underlying systemic causes of the problems we face right now: economic disparity, global conflict, and widespread anxiety. This playlist is curated strictly for the systems thinker. It is for anyone who wants to understand exactly why we are the way we are, rather than just what happened in the past. Now that we have our architectural map, we need to establish our baseline. Before these revolutions even began, what exactly is a human?